Hello and welcome back to the Peave and Cronnie show. I'm Peave.
You know who I am by now.
And
if I have to keep telling you every week what my name is, there is something seriously wrong.
You're a forgettable person.
I am Cronnie.
So today on the Peave and Cronnie show, we're pretty much going to talk about a singular topic. Sony tried to block the Activision deal, basically citing Call of Duty as being this unstoppable juggernaut and saying that if Xbox owned it, it would sway people's decision between buying an Xbox or a PlayStation. To which I think the obvious answer is, well, duh. That's why we're spending £78 billion on it, $78 billion. But also, Microsoft has said in the past that they're leaving that to be a multi-plat game and that they have no intention of making it an Xbox exclusive. But I think the obvious elephant in the room is maybe it won't be an Xbox exclusive, but a day one Games Pass exclusive, and it's kind of game over from there. Especially when they have the cheaper console on the market with the Series S and the Xbox All Access thing, where you go into like Game or Smith's Toy Superstore here in the UK, and you can buy like a Series S and a subscription to Games Pass without putting down any large sum of money. You just pay it up monthly, and it includes your Xbox Live Gold and your Games Pass. So anyway, yeah, I think we're gonna jump into that. So first of all, how do you feel about them actively going out their way to say that Call of Duty is an unblockable juggernaut and that Microsoft shouldn't be allowed to buy it?
First and foremost, I'm going to just say quickly, please like and subscribe and drop a comment on this topic because I'm really interested to know what your thoughts are on what we're going to discuss today. In terms of the Sony actively going away, first and foremost, I think Sony are basically contradicting themselves. There's been instances way back at the start of all this major console war. So Nintendo pretty much were on their own, weren't they, for a large portion of what we deter now as the console war. They were pretty much out there. Well, I know we had Atari and things like that, but Nintendo were Sony in many ways. They were the big hitter. They had Mario that sold off the scale. They had loads of other different franchises and things like that at the time. Even Duck Hunt was a massive popular franchise. I think Double Dragon games, that type of thing. I even remember playing a Turtles game. I think it's the one that's actually come onto Game Pass now, actually, or very similar to it. But it played very similar to that game, and
Turtles in Time.
Sony Sega came along, and they tried to get a piece of the pie, and they got a nice piece of the pie, and it always felt like a comfortable rivalry between Sega and Nintendo. I don't know how much you remember of it.
Red versus Blue, effectively. It was Sonic versus Mario.
Yeah, exactly.
Sega spent a lot of time perfecting games that looked nice at speed and motion, which was kind of their go-to thing. Whereas Mario was, and just in general, Nintendo was a lot more blocky based. In fact, there was quite a lot I remember at the time where Nintendo basically just kept coming out and trying to slay Sega because Sega kept pushing like things like Sonic 3D and things like that, talking about how it wasn't true 3D and really kind of getting into the nitty gritty of it, saying like they're faking it. Fun fact for you, they all are. Believe it or not, those 3D images never existed. Like we built them on a PC. That's me being too far away. Sorry. But yeah. So
to continue on that, then obviously Sony didn't actually want a piece of the pie then. So what you had then was you had like Panasonic 3DO, the Gold Star 3DO come to the scene. You had the Atari Jaguar starting to ramp up, and then all these like CD software consoles were coming out, and Sega tried to get a part of it with the Sega CD, and Nintendo felt they needed to take a march on it and jump in on it as well. So they actually employed Sony to make a bolt-on for one of the Nintendo consoles. I think it was the SNES. It might have been a brand new console.
The Nintendo PlayStation, where
and it was the Nintendo PlayStation.
They have been sold at auction, by the way. There's a couple of them out there. They have been sold at auction. They're worth a lot of money.
And ultimately, Nintendo pulled the plug, didn't they?
No, Sony pulled the plug, not Nintendo.
I thought it was Nintendo pulled the plug because they went into business with Philips instead.
Sony stepped away and took the PlayStation brand because it was theirs. That's what happened. And then PlayStation then launched, at least UK wise, around 94, 95-ish. Which went directly up against the N64. So we had the first kind of CD versus cartridge time period. At the time, Sega were running the Sega Saturn, which was making its own kind of silly mistakes. Also, most people, right, even from people back then, Sega Saturn was just one of these consoles no one knew about. Like, it existed, but it was so poorly advertised, especially for like European markets.
Well, it did. It had already launched in Japan, the Sega Saturn, and then they saw how well the Sony PlayStation was getting. Basically, the feedback the PlayStation was getting. So they basically at E3 I think it was, they launched the Sega Saturn, and they this price on it. But the very next day, Sony did something very similar to what they did to Microsoft a few years back. They walked on the stage and they went, yeah, but this time he walked on the stage and he said $299 and then walked off, which was basically $299, and the Sega Saturn was $399. And that just basically put a nail in the coffin for the Saturn. A lot of people believe the Saturn had better games than PlayStation at the time.
Fun fact for you, Tomb Raider originally launched on the Saturn and then was ported to the PlayStation.
Yeah.
So a lot of people look at Tomb Raider as being a PlayStation original franchise, and Tomb Raider's not.
So this is what irks me. So there's instances like $299, or this is how you share games on PlayStation, and it's just all reactive from PlayStation in terms of, oh, they've got a bit of bad feedback, let's just drop it by £100 and we'll do that. Or they've got bad feedback, so we'll drop the what we had planned with DMR and stuff like that now, and we'll go into this way of doing it.
The other
PlayStation are a nasty company. Sony are a nasty company
when they're doing business. The other thing is, though, every time that they've been left to their own devices, every single time you've had incidences like the PlayStation 3 that launched ridiculously overpriced. The only reason the PS3 ever caught up with your Xbox 360 was because it was the cheapest Blu-ray player you could purchase. You didn't have to buy any add-ons for it. And the Red Ring of Death kind of set Xbox back just slightly. Having said that, PlayStation 5 is the 5th PlayStation console, okay? But the Xbox Series consoles is the 4th generation of Xbox.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how much different this console, like race war, whatever you want to call it, would be if Xbox had launched just
in 95
a little bit back, and had kind of competed? And without going into too much details, we do know that they were very, very heavily involved with the Dreamcast as well. Like Microsoft's logo is on the side of a Dreamcast. The controller for a Dreamcast is almost identical to the original controller for the Xbox via Xbox OG. So I'm not saying that they weren't involved at all, but imagine that they had been all in on gaming, and back then the same way that Sony was. I don't even think Sony would have got their piece of the pie. The truth is, if Microsoft wants to, they will nail any company out there, because your brand loyalty doesn't matter to Sony, because they're willing to stomp on every single one of you. And that's evidenced by the fact that they're trying to sell you The Last of Us, again, this time at more cost than the original version, while cutting out the multiplayer. Okay, they don't care about
which they're going to sell as part 2 in the future to get people to jump on board with that.
They
It's
don't care.
ridiculous.
They don't care about their fan base at all. And I'm not saying that Xbox somehow do. Xbox have made just as many silly mistakes, like when they tried to raise the cost of Xbox Live. We shouldn't be paying for Xbox Live. It's free on the PC to play Gears of War online. Why do I have to pay money to play it on the Xbox? I've already paid for the game or downloaded it via Games Pass, which they seem to count as a valid way of purchasing a game.
Yeah.
So the whole thing's kind of stupid. Both companies, they like to play good guy, bad guy. Neither of them are the good guy. Both of them want your money. Do not miss.
That's
Like,
that's the
Xbox is
crux of
not
it.
your friend, and neither is PlayStation. So if you're spending time on Twitter or you're spending time arguing with your mate about which is better, yeah, you're
It's
wasting your
pointless.
time.
Yeah, it's pointless.
Okay.
And in all actual fact, all that Microsoft and Sony are doing, if you're arguing with Tom, Dick, or Harry about which is the best, is they're just sat there like, yay, free publicity! Yay, free publicity! That's all you're doing. So, but yeah, and it's interesting as well because Microsoft wouldn't have even come to the fold if the PlayStation 2 didn't include a DVD player. Bill Gates saw that, recognized it, and basically got scared and said, "We need consoles to."
I mean, it makes sense. The biggest issue I have, especially with the Xbox OG, was the DVD player was built into the console, but you had to buy a peripheral to access it.
The little remote thing.
Yeah. It's silly choices like that have always put Xbox on the back foot. Right. Every generation they've done this like little silly thing. Even with a 360, the Red Ring of Death, and little silly choices, like for example, launching the games with launching two versions of the console, one that didn't come with a hard drive. Like at that time, we were past the not having hard drives. And the original Xbox launched with one. There should have never been a version of the Xbox 360 that didn't have one. I understand that obviously when it first launched, 20 gigabyte hard drive was the premium version. And they called it the premium version. They wanted you to buy it and feel like you were buying the expensive, better version of the console.
The Xbox 360 and the Xbox 3 Premium. You even got two different color boxes as well.
Yeah, and the 360 Premium had a silver strip on the disc drive, and the original and the Xbox 360 Arcade is what it was called at the time didn't. But like again, it's silly choice like that, dividing the fans. And I know that that's kind of similar to what they've done now with a Series S and a Series X, but there is a huge difference between those consoles. Like when you buy a Series X, you're buying the best console available on the market, full stop. You're not compromising for visuals, you're not compromising here, you're not compromising there. And not just like, this isn't just me speaking as an owner or like as a fanboy. This is facts. You can look up on Digital Foundry, you see it consistently in every single multi-platform game. Xbox sticks to win, with the exception of maybe one or two where PlayStation do get the win, and fair play to PlayStation. Whereas PlayStation's taken a very different approach. They went for the they've been pretty consistent. They go base console, slim version, base console, slim version, base console, slim version, George Foreman grill, slim version, and so on and so forth. And then obviously with the PS4, we got like the next thing, the next evolution out. We got the PlayStation 4 Pro, and now we're entering into the PlayStation 5. You've got two versions that came at launch. You've got the disc drive version and the one without a disc drive. And now it's only a matter of time until the PlayStation 5 Pro comes out, which is probably about the time I will pick up a PS5, purely just for the fact that the original version will be discounted by that point. And I don't play that many PlayStation games. This isn't about exclusivity. This isn't about any of that nonsense. This is straight up 95% of the games that people play, such as Call of Duty, okay, which is one of the biggest, if not the biggest game on the planet, runs best on an Xbox. And if you can shove that on your Games Pass subscription, day one for free, there is no point of having this conversation anymore.
Yeah.
It's over. And Sony knows that, and that's why Sony's trying to block it. Ubisoft were actually quite offended by the idea that no one can compete with Call of Duty. They love the idea of a challenge. And I kind of get where they're coming from. Sony's not talking about competing as in making a better game, because let's be honest, Call of Duty hasn't been the best game in a very long time. It's just the most popular, and it will be the most popular due to the casual fan base, with the exception of when it was dethroned by Fortnite for a while, which people don't really talk about too much, but that's the reason we have Warzone now, because free-to-play games do better. Again, Games Pass makes every game a free-to-play game. I know that you pay for it, but your head tells you don't. It's like when you watch a film on Netflix, you watched it for free. You did not pay for it.
It's all we need to do is look at Game Pass, and every year we get 3 AAA games on Game Pass minimum a year. So, sort of from September.
Can you name 3 this year then?
From September to September, we've still got September to come. Obviously.
Okay. So you're going to cheat and take last year's games. I'm thinking from January.
Well, yeah, because the gaming year goes from September to September, in my opinion, because they launch the games for Christmas. It's like the movie year. The movie year goes from February to February. That's why they have the Oscars in end of Feb, March.
I feel like there's a little bit of mental gymnastics here. If we go from January to January on a standard year, right?
If we go from January
Xbox
to January,
has nothing this year.
No.
Okay.
But what they launched last year has paid for my Game Pass.
Maybe within reason. Within reason. But then Microsoft has, however, been kind enough to go out there and spend the additional money they've made in different directions. So obviously there's the Activision deal, which, let's be honest, has tied up a lot of their cash. Like, there's a reason you're not seeing a lot more like day one games come into Games Pass right now, and it's because they're not spending that cash. Why would you when you have so many games lined up for the future? Like, if the Activision Blizzard deal went through tomorrow, then you would be getting Diablo, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2. You'd be getting all those games day one. So they're not willing to spend money because they don't know when that deal's going to finish. They estimate January 2023. But it's past like the whole American sort of everything that was going on in America with like people looking into it, the FTC looking into it. Like, it got through that. That's not been an issue anymore. So now it's actually the British version of the FTC that's looking into it.
And the Brazilian.
And the Brazilian one.
I mean, why would you go to Brazil to get anything cleared in court? These are the people where the government have just said, okay, yeah, it's okay to just blatantly murder people who are trying to rob you in the street if they're on a scooter.
Yeah. So because this is now hitting sort of international courts, this doesn't actually affect games like Call of Duty. So they can argue all they want. The truth is, once it got through the FTC, if Call of Duty is made in America, which I'm 99.9% sure it is made in an American American studios, pretty sure Treyarch and Infinity Ward are both based in the US.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what Brazil says because the American side of the business has already gone through. Okay, like, it's just a case of, can we get all the pie at once, or are we going to have to wait longer to get the other bits?
Yeah, they'll be trying to put blocks on various nations and things like that, won't we?
And Sony's whinging about it, right? And my question is, when was the last time Sony made any competent first-person shooter game? Like, they don't have one ever. Like, before Call of Duty, they were searching for the Halo killer, and they never got that either.
No.
So honestly, I don't think that they're capable of outdoing Call of Duty. I know they say they're not, but I don't think they are either. Like, I saw some people saying like, "Oh, if Naughty Dog wanted to, then they could do it." Okay, well, Naughty Dog, try.
Do it.
Do it. I would love to see your studio that is based entirely off making third-person action games, third-person cinematic action games, beat Call of Duty. I'd love to see how you're going to make a shooting game that works like that. The truth is, Call of Duty works because it is just the best at what it does.
Call of Duty works because it's a Michael Bay film.
Well, pretty much, yeah.
That's the best way to describe it. Outlandish, ridiculous explosions and guns going on. Things that shouldn't happen but do happen. And that's why it does well. That's why Transformers films do well. It's why bad boys
Well,
films do
the
well.
thing is, they've mastered the player feedback loop, right? They've mastered it entirely. Because you remember when you used to play Call of Duty, you used to get a kill, and it used to be like 1 point, and then I think it was Call of Duty 4 came out, and it was 10 points came up on your screen when you got a kill. Then Modern Warfare 2 came out, and you got 100 points for a kill.
Yeah.
And it increased the amount of points again, just to get that sweet spot of player satisfaction to make what they were doing feel valuable. Because would you rather see 5 points or 50 points pop up when you get the assist? The truth is, both of them have the same value. They don't actually affect you, but they affect your like the way that you see stuff and the way that you're perceiving games. And that's kind of what Call of Duty's done so well.
It's exactly the reason why people in the 80s used to ram the arcades and go for the high scores, because they like to see a bigger number. It's exactly the reason you and I used to play the big green man all the time, because we always strive for the higher number.
Yeah.
I'm calling him the big green man by the way, because I've been banned from talking about Halo.
You're not banned from talking about Halo today. You can mention Halo in this conversation because it's important. I mean, it's an important distinction, because Call of Duty is what dethroned Halo as the console multiplayer shooter.
Yeah.
Okay, completely. And it doesn't really matter whether Call of Duty, probably you're not the hardcore gamer you think you are, or you're just really bad at it. This isn't coming from like a place.
I didn't hear what you said for a portion of that, and then the feed froze, so I'm just going to nod.
Sorry, I said that if you're not a Call of Duty fan, because you're too much of a hardcore gamer, you're not a hardcore gamer in the first place, or you're not very good at it, one or the other. Like fundamentally, Call of Duty has entered this weird feedback loop where you constantly feel like you're good. It's designed to make you feel like you are a boss at the game. Like that's what it's designed to do. Although, if you play any of the modern Call of Duties, they have skill-based matchmaking, and all of a sudden, and you can look this up, all the like Reddits and everywhere like that, where you've got like Call of Duty based stuff. The Call of Duty fans, like the hardcore Call of Duty community, is fuming that we have skill-based matchmaking, because you can no longer just go into a lobby and win.
Yeah,
like you're always against someone of your equal skill. And that means that your video montages of you getting nuke after nuke after nuke no longer exist. You can't just play until you get like really, really lucky. So yeah, with the sort of Sony's attempt now to block this Activision deal, Microsoft kind of cryptically responded. They tweeted that the healing era was over, and that it was now time for the DPS era. DPS was standing for damage per second.
Correct.
So Overwatch responded to it, which is completely normal, and I would expect that, given that the Activision deal means that Microsoft will own Overwatch. But they never clarified what they were talking about, and I know that Overwatch has like obviously healing characters and damage per second characters and all these kind of tanks, whatever. You've got all these different things, but I don't think that that's what they were talking about. I think they were basically turning around to Sony and saying, "Right, we've played as nice as we can, but the gloves are off now because you're messing." Like they are directly trying to interfere now with Microsoft business, whereas Microsoft before was like, "This pie's big enough for the both of us."
In the last 10 years. I genuinely believe that Microsoft have gone into acquire Activision for the benefit of gamers as a whole. Now, I know what we were saying earlier, and it sounds really contradictory to what I'm saying about, they're not our friend, they're a business, and they are. But I genuinely believe that Microsoft are doing it as looking after the community as a whole. The reason they need it is because Game Pass needs a catalogue. And it needs one fast. There's not enough studios under the Microsoft umbrella making enough games. So it's not like Netflix. Netflix, they can make a movie within 6 months, churn it out, put it on there. It could be the biggest bag of shite in the world that they put out there, Bird Box, prime example. Everyone goes mad over it. Everyone goes mad out over it because it's a new film on Netflix, and these new films come around, and it's like, oh, there we go.
Yeah, well, tell that to all the subscribers that recently quit Netflix because things like Disney Plus have come along and shown them actually, yeah, well, we can continue to do it at the same budget and produce content that people actually care about.
To be honest with you, I think Amazon's a killer because you get your next day delivery for free with it.
Well, to be fair, right, the majority of the stuff I'm watching at the moment, a bit of a tangent here, but I tend to watch I've cancelled my Netflix because I wasn't using it at all. I'm using Disney Plus, and then I'm using Amazon Prime, and at least in the UK, things like Paramount Plus is an add-on to.
Yeah.
So I've got that and the History Channel because they're like the only two things I really tend to watch. So I've got everything I need between Amazon, Paramount as an add-on to Amazon, and then the History Channel and Disney Plus. And on the History Channel, I'll be honest, I'm just being a nerd. But yeah, it's good. So Netflix can't compete anymore because they have, with the exception of Stranger Things and whatever, which just took too long to produce. Let's be honest.
Well, it's because of COVID hit, wasn't it? That's why.
It doesn't matter. It still took too long to hit.
But anyway, it's by the by on that. What I'm referring to is Microsoft need to get content out there now. They've got this subscription service. They need the content out there. So that's why they've bought Activision, right? Who's big? Who has a big back catalogue of games? Activision. Let's take Activision on board.
It wasn't just that. Activision, at the exact time of the purchase, had just been in a lot of bother about their sexual misconduct and that sort of stuff.
Well,
so they were able to get them at a very cheap price.
Exactly. So that was going to be my next point. They've then got this sexual conduct issues and things like that are going on, and accusations against higher up people at Activision and all this thing. So Microsoft stepping in,
the rumor for years
should be a good thing.
The rumor for years was that Microsoft was going to acquire EA. That's been a rumor since EA Access first launched on the Xbox One, because it launched on the Xbox One long before it came to the PlayStation.
EA Access is actually Game Pass, isn't it?
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I mean it's now included in Game Pass Ultimate as well. And then obviously Ubisoft's got their Ubisoft Plus, which is coming to the console soon. It's not here yet, but they seem to have jumped kind of quite firmly into bed with Sony at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if we heard about Sony purchasing Ubisoft in the next 2 years, because Ubisoft have made it clear. Ubisoft have made it clear they want to sell, right?
I don't think Sony have got enough money to buy Ubisoft. Yeah.
Do you know how Sony would afford it? If Sony was to buy Ubisoft, do you want to know how they do it? They would sell Spider-Man back to Marvel.
Spider-Man's not worth 80 billion or 50 billion.
Neither Ubisoft.
Ubisoft would still cost. Ubisoft would still cost 10 billion.
It won't cost any more than Bethesda cost. The Bethesda deal.
They've got more. I would say they've got more successful IPs. They've
just cancelled all their games.
Rainbow Six.
Yeah, they've just cancelled all their games. There was supposed to be a new Ghost Recon Battle Royale game. They've just cancelled it. It was almost out. We're expecting a beta later on this year, and they're like, nah, it's cancelled. They've cancelled and scrapped all their games. They've made it very, very clear that they can't fund their own games at this point. They've got a lot of successful IPs in a back catalogue, but the truth is Ubisoft fell into trying to make every single game the same. Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Rainbow Six, all these games.
It's funny actually, yeah, because I'm actually doing a Ghost Recon Wildlands video now, and I've downloaded Far Cry 6, which is free to play this weekend. I'm like, it's the same game pretty much.
Yeah, that's my point. They fell into this loop of making the same game. They even made fun of it in the start of Far Cry 5, where you have to climb a tower, and they're like, well, we're not going to make you climb towers everywhere. Every other Ubisoft game does. Literally every other Ubisoft game does. Even Assassin's Creed has fallen into that same formula now. And so Ubisoft's struggling. Like, I don't know anyone that talks of Ubisoft as highly as they used to. Like, if you go back to the 360 era where you had Ghost Recon, Advanced Warfighter, and games like that, it was huge.
Yeah.
And now it just isn't anymore. Splinter Cell, Ghost Recon, they even had that.
I do recall me and you looking at Wildlands and looking at the launch trailer and the launch info for that and the gameplay trailer, and you and I looking at Wildlands and thinking, this could be it. This could be the thing that brings Ubisoft back into the fold.
And you know what? Wildlands, in fact, the Ghost Recon franchise in general, it's a great series.
It is, but
especially
it's still
what they've done.
It's still just a posh version of Far Cry, isn't it? It's just a more in-depth version of Far Cry.
For me, in all honesty, the only reason I don't play Wildlands and the only reason I'm not 100% behind Breakpoint is the driving in both those games is so terrible. You made a massive open world game and then made the cars feel like blocks. Like, I know it's gonna sound silly, but I think GTA mastered it with just being like semi-realistic, but then also like letting themselves lean into that arcade style so much with their like driving controls. It's also one of the downfalls of like most games that try to copy GTA tend to struggle with the handling of the cars. Like, it's so common, like Saints Row, Just Cause, all those games have just got really terrible car handling.
Interestingly enough, though, the game that got the handling of the cars right was our favourite. We used to play car football, and my mind's just completely gone blank. Crackdown. They actually got the handling of the cars right.
Yeah. But do you know what I mean? Like that like kind of handling aspect of the cars, it dethrones most of these open world games. At least the Far Cry, like Far Cry is really bad because it's always first person. You're seeing your arms go in, and it feels so clunky. And most of them have an auto drive function because they know it's not fun for you to drive.
Yeah.
Any game that's got an auto drive function tells me that they know that they did a bad job there. So yeah, that's my 2 cents anyway. I don't think that Ubisoft knows how to make a good open world game, which is really, really frustrating because they make lots of open world games. The Ubisoft formula is just something that I would like to see buried.
I still don't think Spider-Man's worth enough to buy it. If you look back, Star Wars cost $4.5 billion for the whole of Star Wars. That's excluding the merchandising rights. Lucasfilm kept the merchandising rights, or a portion of the merchandising rights, because it was actually the merchandising that paid it off the debt for Disney. But if you look at Star Wars was $4.5 billion, Spider-Man's not worth the same as Star Wars. I don't care how.
It might be worth more.
I don't care how the dark days of Star Wars
are
looking now.
I honestly, it might be worth more.
I don't think it is.
Spider-Man has become. He's the biggest Marvel character, and Marvel has reached a point where it's larger than DC. So
I think it's.
And the value of Spider-Man to a studio like Disney and Marvel, who are making these films, the value of that character there almost cannot be questioned, especially not when it is the final missing piece to the puzzle. If they got back Spider-Man, they'd have everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, how much would you be willing to spend to get back your final missing property? And it's just the film rights as well, which is really, really frustrating because the game rights.
Well, that's what I mean. That's
by Disney.
They're not paying $4.5 billion for that.
Maybe not. I don't know. No. It depends on whether or not, because it's not just Spider-Man, is it? Like, you're getting all the Spider-Man characters as well, like everybody linked to it, and it all, I guess, like for example, the MCU is about to launch like a comic series. I say comic series, like a cartoon series called Spider-Man Freshman Year, and it's based around Tom Holland Spider-Man without using Tom Holland in an animated world, part of the MCU. And they're introducing Charlie Cox as Daredevil to return from his Netflix role, and obviously his small cameo in No Way Home.
No Way Home.
And yeah, so they're doing that. But the reason that it's animated, the only reason it's animated, is because they don't have to ask anyone's permission to do so. They own the animation rights. They can make as many Spider-Man cartoons as they want. They can use them as much as they want in cartoons. It's just for film. And if Marvel had owned the Spider-Man rights, we wouldn't be seeing Captain Marvel becoming the leader of the Avengers. We'd have seen Spider-Man take over Iron Man's role. Like, it's not even a doubt. Like, you look at the way that the films are structured, they're designed to almost lead to that. You know, the two of them, he's following that legacy, even in his own story arcs.
Yeah, but Captain Marvel's not designed to take over Iron Man.
No,
Captain Marvel's designed to take over Captain America.
She's designed to take over as the leader of the Avengers. Either way, right, we're getting completely off topic for our
yes,
our Sony. So yeah, anyway, I think that Sony's in for a world of hurt, because I do think Microsoft's about to take off the gloves, in all honesty. Yeah. I think Microsoft has played nicely. I've seen so many people complain, like, why is Microsoft the only company that apologizes? When they purchased Bethesda, a bunch of Bethesda employees came out and said, "We're really sorry, PlayStation fans. We want you to play our game too. We're really sorry that it's not coming out for the PlayStation 5." Right? Where's my apology for Insomniac for not giving us Spider-Man? Or my apology from Naughty Dog for not letting us play The Last of Us?
Yeah.
Exactly. You wouldn't get it because that's a stupid concept.
My apologies from Square for not letting me play the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yeah, you mean the Final Fantasy remake that was a third-party published game, which they've gone out their way to just keep off by paying money. But don't worry, because it would be wrong of them to pay for access for Call of Duty. That would just be horrific. Yeah, that one. This is the issue.
Where's my apology for not letting us play Grand Theft Auto for years?
Sony wants to play dirty. Like, Sony wants to play dirty. That's what they've been doing. They've spent their entire time in the console generations bullying people with their money. The time that they kind of lost that a little bit was the PlayStation 3, where they got overly greedy, made a load of mistakes, and no one really touched it until the till the Xbox One came out. As soon as the Xbox One was announced, Xbox 360 production stopped. It was turn it off, right? And the PlayStation didn't do that. They continued to produce the PlayStation 3s. And if you look at the sales between PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 worldwide, it's something like 5,000 in it. It's such a small amount. Like, it's ridiculous.
It's a bit higher than that. I think Xbox finished on about 360s on about 85 million, and the PlayStation 3 finished on about 87 million in the end.
Yeah, either way, it's nothing.
But from 2014.
The point was that the 360, they stopped production, they moved on to the Xbox One, which, let's be honest, was a marketing nightmare. It was the worst thing that they could do. We've got a console for people that don't have access to the internet. It's called the Xbox 360. Like, just no, they tanked their they tanked it. The fact that Microsoft continued to invest in Xbox to get us to a Series S and X is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Because any other business on the entire planet would have pulled out.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Phil Spencer, I don't know what he did, right? I don't know who he gave a cheeky favor to.
He basically asked. I think he asked for 4 years. I think he said, "Give me 4 years, and I'll turn it around." And he has done. He has done. Fair play to him. He turned it around. The console still finished badly, but by the end of the life cycle, I think the Xbox One had just started to tip. Once the One X came out, it just started to tip. It was like being outsold 3-1, and it came down to 2-1. I think it was just about breaking even with PlayStation towards the end of the life cycle.
It's not just that though. Xbox is no longer that little box that you've got under your TV. Like, that's not what this is. Not just because it's now a big box, but like, it's so much more now. It's a subscription service. It's your every game you play on the PC. It's
It
games
is
you're playing
now,
on your phone.
Ironically enough, it is now what the vision was for the Xbox One.
Yeah. Which is funny. But we're here and we've reached this point, and now PlayStation's scrambling. They're playing catch up. We're on like games launching on PC. Like at the moment, they're saying that they can't put games day one to their PlayStation now because it doesn't make financial sense to them. They can't launch day one PC because it doesn't make financial sense to them. Yeah, well, in 2 years' time, you're not going to have a choice. Like, you either do it or people just will not care because Microsoft's ability to own Activision and to own Bethesda and to own all these other studios that they've purchased along the way and all the stuff that they're doing, they're going to be pumping games out into Game Pass. You're going to get a new game of at least AA quality, if not AAA, monthly as part of your subscription. And of course, then that comes to the next question is, will Microsoft increase the subscription price? Phil Spencer's been really, really quick to say no. But it's gonna have to eventually, surely.
I think I've said to you, I think I said it to you. I would be quite happy to pay £15 to £20 for Game Pass.
I already pay £15. Games Pass Ultimate's about £15, give or take.
£11.99 I pay.
As I said, it's about £15. I don't pay that much attention to tiny little.
Yeah, it's £11.99.
If I'm getting a new AAA game every month, I'd pay £25 a month. I won't even question it. I already
stretch that far.
that's
I'm
fine.
tight.
But no, exactly. I already buy every game I want. Like I want a game, I just buy it.
Yeah, exactly.
I have 500 plus games, right, just on my Xbox. I have 10 terabytes of like hard drives filled with games installed. Like, I don't have to wait for them to download. I don't have any of that nonsense. I just do and play what I want to do. That doesn't even go into the games that I've downloaded on my PC, the games I own on my PlayStation, the games I own on my Switch. Like, I have so many games because quite frankly, I just love games. So
yeah,
I would be willing to pay up to £25. And I think if you're really honest with yourself, you would too. Like if you were finding out that you were going to keep access and they were going to continually produce, AAA quality games, and you were going to get a new one every single month, or at least one every 2 months, you'd be willing to pay that money. I think you would. You might say that you wouldn't. Or maybe you'd go the way of my friend who subscribes and unsubscribes from Games Pass, depending on when he wants to play stuff. So he purchases games like Halo Infinite outright because he said that he wanted to support the development of the campaign. Fair enough. Do what you want. You're an idiot. And then like Halo Infinite's multiplayer is free to play, so you don't need Games Pass for that. If you were gonna have like just a month where you were just gonna focus on Halo Infinite and maybe a couple of other like smaller games that you already own, like Rocket League's free to play, Fortnite's free to play, Warzone's free to play. So many free to play games out there now. You could turn off Games Pass and not really notice it.
Yeah.
Overwatch 2 is launching free to play. So you wouldn't need Games Pass if you didn't want to pay for every single month, and that's fine. So as a semi-casual or even a hardcore player, you could probably go, 6 months without spending a single penny.
Yeah.
And then buy Games Pass for the latter half of the year, or buy it from places like cdkeys.com and stuff like that, like third-party websites where you can buy it cheap, which is a really, really good way to stack up. So you're welcome. Top tips from Peave. But yeah, like there's a lot of options out there for the gamer for how to access Games Pass and stuff like that. Personally, £25, I wouldn't even bat an eye. Right. Don't get me wrong, I understand we're in cost of living crises and all that nonsense, but £25 seems fair for what I'd be getting. If the quality and the content is coming out consistently. However, Xbox has not met that
yet.
I don't know if they will. I think the question comes down to it. Like, unfortunately, 343 is kind of the single reason for why this question even comes up to it. But is Halo Infinite as bad as it is because it was going to Games Pass? Like, was there a kind of a right, get this out on Games Pass right now? Or was 343 just completely incompetent? I think that's a video for itself.
I think Halo. I just to put a draw a line under it. I think it's just 343 are incompetent.
I've never seen a franchise like that be tanked as much. Even Star Wars, for all the hatred that it currently gets, has not tanked as hard as Halo.
Yeah, I mean, the Halo Infinite is a good game. We keep saying it. Everyone says it. At the core level, it's a good game, but it's just so poorly supported.
The truth is, I play it and I feel like I'm being scammed. Like, they spend more time updating their shop and stuff like that than they do updating the game, and that's the issue.
If Halo Infinite would have launched without Game Pass initially, and I'd paid money for it, I would be absolutely fuming, because we've got like 5 maps that we play. In fact, we only get 4 maps because the rotation is shit. Big team is broken. The campaign.
Just to jump in, right? Halo Infinite launched in December, right? Okay. We are currently, as of filming this, we're on August the 6th. Okay. Co-op still is not available in the game.
Yeah.
Right. It's still not there. We still don't have Forge. We're getting all these leaks. The hype now is coming from leaks. Like, that's all we're getting is leak. Like, this stuff's clearly working for it to be leaked. Okay, we've played co-op. We know it works. And I understand the hesitance after the MCC to like just randomly willy-nilly add new stuff because you add something and the whole thing breaks. It's like a playing Jenga. You're like trying to move the blocks about without knocking down the tower.
This is something they should have learned from.
This is something. Yeah, no, this is my point. You're doing a live service game. This should have been not only something you were aware of, right, but your game should have been built to have interconnecting parts. Like, it should be designed. Like, if I'm playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare, for example, right, and I'm finished with a campaign, and you finish the campaign, you load it up. Do you know what the first thing that pops up on your screen is? Congratulations. In Call of Duty Modern Warfare, when you complete the campaign, the first thing that pops up on your screen when you reload the game, like if you take it, like quit to the dashboard and load it back up, is congratulations on beating the game. Would you like to uninstall the campaign now to free up space? Right? And it breaks the game down into segments. MCC does it. Don't want to play Halo CE? Just uninstall it. Problem solved. Don't want to play the multiplayer portion, just a single player? Cool. Uninstall that. Play single player. Don't want to play single player, just want multiplayer? Install that. Just want multiplayer for Halo 2? Go for it. Like, this game was built as a building block. And that's how Infinite should be, especially given that it's a free-to-play game. Like, the campaign is automatically downloaded, even if you're playing the free-to-play version. You just can't access it. Like, what is wrong with them to design it in such a poor way that they don't foresee these issues? It's such a horribly optimized mess. I do not understand how, for starters, it got through any sort of like processing, and also how any single member of upper management, and I don't care whether you've been there 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, how any of them still have a job genuinely astounds me.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely. And like, I noticed that they all go quiet and they've been using Joe Staten to like go out and like, you go speak to the people like you go do it. Nah, take responsibility. Where's Frankie O'Connor? Where's he been this whole time? Bonnie Ross has been promoted. Kiki Wolfkill fucked off and did the TV show.
Yeah, the fucking biggest fucking thing that's hurt Halo in terms of the fans in history.
You know, these people have all been promoted and given different jobs. Like, it kind of reminds me of the military. Like when when you've got that one sergeant that's just not very good at his job, but he's not done quite enough that you can demote him. So you just promote him and get him out of the way.
Yeah,
That's exactly what they've done.
Promote him to Alaska.
Yeah. Oh well, our Alaskan base needs a bit more defense. You'll whip it into shape in no time. Like, no, the whole thing's ridiculous, right? And I know that we have now ended up back on Halo again, okay? And I know that it's frustrating. But that game should not exist, especially not how it's built now. And the people that built it in this way, like as the consumer, we feel ignored because we've not seen the repercussions.
Let's be clear here. We're not targeting the developers on this. The people at base level.
This is upper management.
Yeah, the
right?
people who are putting the hours in to get this game out for us. It is the upper management. It's the people rolling the dice, making the decisions. That's what's pissing us off.
I've seen people say that the microtransactions are a Microsoft thing and not because they're the publisher, it's up to them. If that's the case, then why does Forza Horizon 5 not have that issue? Why does no other Microsoft game have that issue?
Yeah.
What's that? It's not a Microsoft issue. It's a 343 issue because they don't respect you, the player. They never have done. They don't like Halo. They never have done. They've constantly just gone out their way to chase the next trend and try and make Halo into that game. If Halo had stayed true to what Halo was, we wouldn't even be talking about an Activision deal because Call of Duty wouldn't matter.
We should have been in a position where Microsoft said to Bungie, "Yeah, that's fine. You've given us 4 great games, 5 if you count ODST. Go off, go make your game, go make your Destiny game that you want to make. We'll take it as an exclusive for 6 months or whatever, and then come back, and then you get back on Halo 4 or Halo 5 or whatever." And
I wouldn't have even done that. Like, I think let Bungie go, let them go, right? But just end the Halo franchise. As a Halo fan, they could have just ended it. It would have been sad to see it end. But all things have to end eventually. And instead of it going out on this massive crescendo, it's gone out with this little whimper.
it should have finished with Halo 3.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. It should have finished. It was the perfect ending. No, in fact, I rephrase that. Master Chief's story arc should have finished with Halo 3. It was a perfect ending for him. I like the fact that initially he was killed off, but they just quite couldn't do it.
Yeah,
he saved his life. He lost. He would have lost his life saving humanity.
Yeah, he had made the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah, which is what he wanted to do. If you look at all the expanded lore, it's what he wanted to do.
I mean, or not just that. It really, really links back to the pure religious imagery and themes that go right the way through Halo.
Well, it basically harps back to the 300 Spartans of Sparta.
Yeah. But
they lost their lives saving Sparta.
Yeah, but like the whole of Halo, like Halo 1, 2, and 3, are full of like very, very on the nose, like Christianic religion, like imagery. Like it's very, very similar. The flood, the ark, all of these kind of things. Without getting into it with too much detail, and he plays a savior role effectively. So his sacrifice for humanity again would have tied into that theme.
Jesus.
How I was trying not to mention anyone, but yeah. Anyway, this was supposed to be a short 20 minutes to 30-minute video, and we're currently on 54 minutes. So
yeah,
let's
wrap it up.
Let's just sum this up with at least my final thoughts, and then your final thoughts. So for me, I think Sony's an idiot. They shouldn't have contested with Microsoft. in this way. They should have let Microsoft purchase Activision without saying anything, and then had a fruitful partnership with Microsoft. Microsoft have been very, very clear that they're willing to work with Sony. But also at the same time, how willing would you be to work with a company that has consistently undermined your company and your player base?
Yeah.
You know, Sony is the first one to throw their money down to get exclusive content or exclusive access to like third-party games. Microsoft's money, as we said last week, all of their exclusive content has been in buying things like Sniper Elite 5 as day one Games Pass games, as opposed to locking the other console out. They've just been trying to get more of their players in, which is a significantly better way of doing it. Whereas Sony has taken this like, this is my ball, you can't play with it approach. With Avengers locking out Spider-Man and stuff like that. Final Fantasy 7, Street Fighter 5. I'm sure that if I was left for like 5 minutes, I could probably think of hundreds of cases of this. Call of Duty, for example, they locked us out of modes on Call of Duty for a full year, which, as far as Call of Duty is concerned, if you're locked out of a mode for a full year on Call of Duty, you might as well never get the mode because it's on a yearly cycle. So, don't go pointing fingers at Microsoft saying they can't have Call of Duty, because that would be really, really wrong, when you have been solely marketing Call of Duty and paying for the marketing rights for Call of Duty to try and make it look like it's on your console as the primary thing. Like, you are literally complaining about something while doing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my opinion. I think Sony are just massive hypocrites, and I think that it's glad to see Microsoft finally competing. And maybe now Sony can innovate and give us something new, because Sony have done nothing to earn players. They've done nothing to help players. They're still the only company that charges for you to play crossplay, right? They charge the developers so that you can play crossplay. Just think about that when next time you load up Fortnite or Call of Duty or Apex Legends or any of these games with these crossplay features. Those companies are being shafted by Sony so that you can play crossplay. And it's just silly. Like, there's just no reason for that. So that's my thoughts anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I can see from a certain perspective why Sony have taken it to court. They have to. They're a business.
No, they've not taken it to court. They were asked their opinion. They gave it.
Yeah, and they have to do that. They're a business. Is it right to do so? No, for many of the reasons you've stated. They're crapping themselves, basically. They've shit themselves, and they think they're going to lose their cash cow, because let's face it, Call of Duty is a cash cow for all the generations.
But they make themselves look weak. They are the weakest market leader I've ever seen. If they were as good as their fans claim they are, and as they've been claiming they are for all this time, we wouldn't be having
Why do you need this third party game?
Well, it's not even just why do you need this third party game. Microsoft has said you can keep it. What you're actually losing is the exclusive marketing rights. And even that, once your deal is up, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure is next generation.
24, and 24, I think it is 24 or 25.
Yeah, well, guess what? If Microsoft purchases Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2 is going to come out this year, and you're not going to see another Call of Duty until their deal's up. Microsoft will do you consistent updates, and that will be it.
Yeah.
Okay? Because Microsoft there's not a chance in hell that they're giving them Call of Duty still. The fact that they continue to support their Bethesda dealings says, kudos to them, because Microsoft has the money to buy you out that contract. And if they thought it was their benefit, they just would.
Microsoft has the money to buy Sony.
yeah, exactly.
It's as simple as that. So why, Phil Spencer said all along, competition is good. We do not want to kill the competition.
Yeah, no.
Why would you want to kill the competition?
Without PlayStation, we wouldn't have Games Pass.
And all that would happen is if Phil Spencer killed off PlayStation as competition. All that happened is Nintendo would step into that space.
Not quite. I think the truth is PlayStation and Xbox are occupying the same space. Nintendo has done very, very well to carve out its little niche corner with the Wii, then the Switch. You know, they have owned their segment of the gaming market fairly since Sony basically forced them into this thing where they had to innovate. They had to do this. When they had the GameCube versus the PS2, the GameCube did terribly, and Nintendo was like, "Ooh, let's not do that again." So they went and they innovated and they created their own sort of thing, and as such, the Xbox got Kinect, the PlayStation got the PlayStation Move controllers, and so on and so forth. We saw them kind of mix and match. I want to live in that gaming world where we still get that. Okay, PlayStation just needs to realize, oh crap, we lost this console nonsense. What can we do to make our console unique? What can we offer people that's unique? PlayStation has plenty of opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Sony has hundreds of opportunities. For starters, their film rights alone, for their, they own so many massive franchises, for like, stuff like Ghostbusters, Men in Black, these kind of things. All of these games would translate really well into games. Like all of these like properties would move into games really well. Use them to make your thing unique. Expand on your VR, expand on these things, make your console stand out again. I'm sorry that your console looks like a router from the 90s, right? You'll get over it. Okay. But we are now at this weird state where PlayStation's afraid to compete. They don't want to compete because they've forgotten how to. They were handed the victory, and now they can't use their money to win anymore because Microsoft's finally said, you know what, actually, we could probably actually do something with this gaming division. Because up until now, Microsoft's not made any money from it. And they don't care, really. Because once Sony disappears, which is only a matter of time if they don't innovate, then, all the money's theirs. Their subscription service alone is paying them more than Sony's making.
Oh, yeah.
Like, their subscription service alone monthly is paying them more than Sony makes from most of their like sales from video games. In fact, I think we worked out the Ratchet and Clank sales. Based on that, they're making more money from a single month of Games Pass than they made from the entire sales of Ratchet and Clank. Like it's insane the amount of money that these subscription services are worth. And Sony slept on it. Sony was there first and then slept on it. Everything's like, and Sony's got such a back catalogue. They've got PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4. They should, in theory, win. Like if they just committed to it, but they haven't. And it's such a shame because I really want to see them compete on that level. And this isn't me speaking as a fanboy, but PlayStation really need to step it up because Microsoft did. Right? Microsoft got fed up of being in the dirt and stepped up.
Yeah.
Now it's time for Sony to do the same. If you want to get what's best for everyone, it's time to just let Microsoft let Microsoft do what they're doing so that Sony has no other choice but to stand up and be counted. You can't just coast along. Like it's kind of like the Ford Ferrari thing, They were winning for so long.
It is exactly Ford versus Ferrari.
They were winning for so long, and then Ford comes along and goes, nope.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Anyway, on that note, I have once again been Peave. You guys have been awesome. He has been.
I have been Cronnie once again.
And a little bit annoying. But yeah, no. Right, guys. Thank you very much. If you've got anything to add to this conversation, comment down below. If you've made it this far, you have to smash like because it's only fair. Also, subscribe because we've got quite a lot of new content on the way, including some kind of versus stuff, some kind of deep dives, a little bit of more first impressions, a bit more Cronnie's ramblings. You name it, we've got it. Okay, so
people like my ramblings.
Yeah, someone's got to. So yeah, stick around. Let's see what's going on. Right. Take it easy, guys.
You too. Take care.